Welcome to Emerge Ministries Center for Pastoral Counseling. Hi, I'm Wayne Benson, President and CEO of Emerge Ministries. You and I, along with several of our instructors, are going to be going on an educational journey together. The time? Well, that's largely dependent upon you and the pace at which you're comfortable. I trust this experience will enrich your life and enhance your ministry skills significantly.
This is Lesson 1. It's the introductory lesson to the core curriculum. And in this lesson, you're going to learn about the importance of Christian counseling, the advantages of Christian counseling, and the biblical principles that guide us as Christian counselors. In addition, we'll introduce you to the Center for Pastoral Counseling and the parent counseling center behind it, Emerge Ministries. I'll introduce you to the instructors, give you some pointers for making the most out of the lessons as you study. And then you'll take a little sample test to get you started. We are delighted that you've chosen to be a part of what I consider to be the greatest enterprise in the world, bearing one another's burdens. Do you remember the Apostle Paul instructed us in Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burdens and thereby fulfill the law of Christ? It's pretty profound when you think about it. Well, that instruction, which is the context of guiding people who are caught in their problems, gives a very high priority to counseling as a part of our pastoral care. But things are rapidly changing. Many long-held views have changed in the world. Those of us who live in Western culture know that values have shifted dramatically in the last half-century. Well, that's reshaped our views of religion, views of the church, family, education, ethics, concept of multiculturalism, even what we would accept as entertainment today. Well, that constant shifting is caused largely by the spiritual vacuum in the hearts of many people who have absolutely no solid philosophy of life or no foundation for truth. Watch this video, which is an interview of people in the street that are trying to answer the question, what is truth?
What is truth?
Truth is
just when...
I don't know.
That's a really hard question. What is truth?
Truth is really
hard to define because
a lot of different people have
different set of beliefs.
Present moment is truth, I think.
What is truth?
Truth will set you free.
I truly believe there's a difference between fact and truth.
Truth is very hard to give a definition to, I think.
Some of the old problems never change. There will always be people who deal with anxiety, depression, conflict, transitions in life. But my experience is that many of the same old issues are complicated today by generations of blended families, so even the old issues become more complicated. Many are deeply confused about their concept of God, their relationship with Him. But many of the issues that we face in the 21st century, they're relatively new to us in counseling. People today are afraid of terrorism. The economy, uncertainties about the future, they seem ever present. Issues that were of little concern, perhaps didn't even exist a few years ago. Things like internet pornography, suggestive text messaging or sexting, intimate chat rooms, emailing salacious pictures. Today, pastors and counselors are dealing with these things frequently. Mediums like MySpace, Facebook, Twittering, why these things didn't even exist a few years ago. And while they can be great conveniences and very helpful tools for us, they do present new challenges for us today. Because the world is becoming an increasingly more complex place, the problems that people are dealing with today demand of us that we be adequately equipped. And that's what we at Emerge Ministries have been called to do, to equip pastors, lay leaders for effective counseling ministry. And I can tell you, having over 30 years of pastoral ministry, that an ounce of good, preventative, proactive pastoral counseling may be worth a whole pound of professional therapy. The truth is, you, as a church leader, are the very first line of defense, almost always. Studies have shown over the last 50 years that people who have an association with the church will almost always go to their pastor or church leader before they'll come to a professional counselor. In fact, we've done a number of studies at Emerge Ministries. Every one of them consistently revealed that through the years. Well, since Emerge is a Christian mental health clinic, we certainly recognize the unique and special place of Christian mental health care professionals. But we also realize we're in a partnership with pastors and churches all over the world. And so we want to help you improve your counseling skills. All right, let's talk about the advantages of Christian counseling. Studies have consistently confirmed these advantages. Now, the stats differ from country to country, but they're certainly on the side of Christian counselors in America. Numbers of polls have been done through the years. Going back to 2003, the Harris poll, 79% said they believed in God, but then there were 12% who said they weren't sure. So you really have to kind of add those together to do a comparative with other studies that have been done. 9% say they do not believe in God. Well, that's still 91% who say they either aren't sure or they believe in God. And then they said 26% attended church weekly, 36% attended church once a month or more, 55% attended church a few times a year or more. Well, moving the calendar ahead, in 2004, Fox News poll, 92% believe in God, 85% believed in heaven, and then 69% said religion plays too small a part in the United States and with people in the United States. Move it up to 2007. Newsweek poll, 91% believe in God or at least a higher power. 2008, Washington Post, 92% believe in God or a higher power. In the same poll, the Washington Post, 80% said they actually believe that miracles occur today. In June of 2008, the Pew Forum indicating that 92% believed in God. So when you boil this all down together, it's pretty safe to say 92% of Americans believe in God or at least a higher power. Over 90% suggest that they are affiliated in some way, whether they attend or not. They claim some kind of religion in America. Now, contrast that with this sad statistic in the professional mental health care field. Only 40 to 45% of mental health care professionals reported a belief in God. Add to that this one. Only 37% of psychiatrists answered yes to the question, if it were scientifically demonstrated that the use of a spiritual intervention, such as prayer, improved patient progress, would you perform that intervention or recommend it? Answer, generally, no. It's also statistically proven that teens who attend religious services regularly are less likely to smoke or drink or use drugs. And by the way, that comes from the National Center on Addictions and Substance Abuse. It's not a Christian organization. It came out of Columbia University in 2005. And then there's a growing body of scientific evidence that shows people who attend religious services at least once a week enjoy a better than average health, lower rates of illness, including depression. And that came from that spiritual magazine called Wall Street Journal, May 3 of 2005. So you can see that the statistics, even coming from secular organizations, are really on your side. Well, there are 5 things that distinguish Christian counseling from secular counseling. People should be able to anticipate these things in your counseling as a Christian counselor. Number 1, biblical premises. The Word of God is the guide for our lives. Prayer is a divine connection with God. God is sovereign. God is compassionate. And God's forgiveness is a desperate human need. Well, there are two primary biblical goals that we should embrace as Christian counselors. One is spiritual growth. And the second one is to live in conformity with God's principles and provisions. And then there are four primary biblical values. Hope. I can be changed through God's help. That's the hope the world needs. Number two is correction. I need to conform to God's plan. After all, He is the owner, the creator. He created the owner's manual. Number three is promise. Every person needs the biblical value of promise, that I can live in a way that brings blessing to me and brings glory to God. And then the fourth one is acceptance. I do have value to God, and I do have self-worth. Now, these premises and goals, values, should give assurance to the counselee that the Christian counseling experience is going to be free from humanistic relativism, anti-God philosophies, unbiblical values, which means that we as counselors will discourage and we ourselves will not participate in things like behaviors that are inconsistent with godly character, extramarital or premarital intercourse, and we're not going to encourage that or approve that. Habits and addictions that are harmful. They're not going to hear offensive language from us, and we will probably, especially if you're a pastoral counselor, you may want to curb that in your own particular setting. Professional counselors, frankly, do not have as much latitude for that as you do. Let's talk about the vision for the Center for Pastoral Counseling. Here's our vision. The Center for Pastoral Counseling will provide professional-level teachers, but the training will be relatively free of psychological jargon, theological terms. It's our desire to provide understanding and training that is practical for pastors, for lay counselors who desire a greater understanding of human behavior, and with a strong biblical emphasis for counseling. CPC, it's also for professional counselors who want a greater understanding of the integration of psychology and theology. And it's our mission through the Center for Pastoral Counseling to provide you with the basic tools and training that you're going to need to improve your people-helping skills. Our mission is to meet the needs of hundreds of pastors and ministers, missionaries, leaders worldwide for training in pastoral counseling. Our mission is to help people who influence many others through their ministry with the additional training that they need, training that they most likely did not receive either in their ministry preparation or in their secular education. That's the vision that we have for the Center for Pastoral Counseling. Through the medium of the internet, we're able to help pastors, missionaries, lay leaders, and even professional counselors worldwide through our online center. There are currently hundreds of Christian leaders around the world who have been trained through Emerge. They're today pastors, teachers, missionaries, even politicians, medical doctors, and of course a great number of professional clinical counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and of course there are coaches, businessmen, businesswomen, housewives, others who have given themselves to the great enterprise of helping people. We believe that through this web-based delivery system, our reach will be increased to a global dimension. It was our desire to create courses that could be seamlessly integrated into the work that you do as a layperson or professional, and relatively inexpensive when you compare it to comparable education in the marketplace. It was an important goal to offer these courses in a simple format that provides the resources for your studies with a Center for Pastoral Counseling, web-based, 24/7 medium. Emerge Ministries has been involved in distance learning for over 20 years. There are hundreds of students who've taken courses through the Institute for Pastoral Counseling, originally presented by Emerge founder Dr. Richard Dobbins. And those courses were cutting edge in their days, using cassette tape medium, CD, the new Center for Pastoral Counseling will provide up-to-date research with outstanding teachers who are active in the field of professional counseling and counselor training, all in a medium that is 21st century and easily acceptable. Before I give you an overview of the courses offered through the center, let me give you a brief history of Emerge Ministries, the organization that is providing this training and the parent organization of the Center for Pastoral Counseling. Emerge Ministries is a full-service Christian mental health clinic founded by Dr. Richard Dobbins, a psychologist who had many years of pastoral experience before imparting the vision for Emerge. I encourage you to go to the website for Emerge for a more complete version of this history. It's www.emerge.org. It was out of Doc Dobbins' own personal pain that this ministry was formed. When he sought help for his late wife, Dolores, who had serious postpartum depression, he wasn't able to find it, neither through his ministry friends, he was a pastor back in those days, nor through the professionals in secular psychology. Well, God eventually provided the spiritual and emotional help for Dr. Dobbins and Dolores. But that vacuum of help drove Doc Dobbins to his knees and to the books. He became one of the first graduates with a PhD in psychology at the University of Akron. Out of that pain, Emerge Ministries was born. Today, Emerge Ministries serves more than 300 clients every week in our 25,000 square foot center located in Akron, Ohio. In addition, we have a satellite center in Syracuse, New York, and a franchise in Toronto, Canada. We have over 20 professional clinicians, clinical counselors, psychologists, and one psychiatrist in our central campus in Akron, all Christians dedicated to a solid, biblically based integration of psychology and theology. And then there are counselors in our franchise center in Toronto and also in our satellite center in New York. You know, there's not a day that goes by at Emerge Ministries when we do not see the miracle of transformed lives, healed minds, marriages restored, families made whole. Emerge provides specialized counseling for children, marriage, family therapy, eating disorders, anxiety disorders, basically most of the mental health issues that people deal with today. We also specialize in helping ministers and their families, and that's a very important part of what we do. In fact, each year we provide help to over 2,000 ministers and missionaries, either through direct counseling on site, through our helpline, or through the regional venues that we provide in the United States and abroad. The last important arm of Emerge Ministries is education, not only the kind that you're experiencing through distance learning, but also traditional education that provides a master's degree in clinical counseling. We've been in a strategic partnership with Ashland Theological Seminary for over 20 years, providing an Akron-based cohort for students who want to be professional counselors or pastors who want to be better equipped with a formal education. We have cohorts that meet one day a week and have plans now for future cohorts that will meet in the evenings. You will be meeting some of our instructors through the Center for Pastoral Counseling online. Well, let's talk about what you can expect from this core of 12 lessons. First of all, you're getting a high-tech education that is presented in a conventional format, so it's portable and it's available. Pastors and laypersons in churches, very busy people, we know that. And likewise, there are missionaries who are busily engaged in their calling. Some who are professional counselors who desire to have the benefit of these courses integrating psychology with theology. Most of these people are very active in professions and ministries. This course will provide the tools that you need in a format that is easily accessed anywhere, anytime, where there is internet. In addition, we've made these lessons downloadable so you can put them on your computer or in your iPod, iPhone, MP3, MP4 device and work with these lessons anywhere, anytime. The only thing that we ask is that you honor the copyright laws that are associated with these materials. The second benefit is that you're getting a quality education, generally comparable to master's level training, but without the work of a lot of the research and thesis papers that would be required in a master's program, and for a fraction of the cost. You will receive a general overview of pastoral counseling in this core curriculum. I'll go over the specific lessons in just a few moments. When you completed the 12 lessons, you can then expect to have a sound, biblically based concept of pastoral counseling that is the primary foundation for this course. But you'll have an understanding also of the basic fundamentals in psychology as they are integrated into theological truths. In addition, you'll be exposed to various counseling theories and concepts as they relate to the work of pastoral counseling. A more practical understanding of techniques will come in the satellite modules after completing this core curriculum. And that brings me to the discussion of the advanced modules. Once you have passed the online tests at the end of each lesson in the core curriculum, you will then have completed the prerequisites for going to the satellite modules, where you can then find advanced training in various areas of pastoral counseling. For example, you could now take the module specifically related to marriage or pre-marriage counseling. And this, of course, would be very helpful for pastors or marriage mentors who are preparing couples for marriage. Or the course on marriage counseling, parenting, addictions, crisis counseling. A lot of these themes are going to be very practical help to those who are giving pastoral counseling. Some of these courses have not yet been completed, but will soon be available. The core curriculum is the essential base of knowledge to the rest of the satellite modules. When you've completed a module, then you're eligible for a certificate from the Center for Pastoral Counseling indicating the level that you've completed. Each module will provide its own certificate of completion. In this case, you'll receive the core curriculum certificate. I do want to make it clear, however, that you will not be a licensed counselor simply by taking this online course. Nor does this course or the advanced courses qualify you to be a professional counselor. That requires a license from the state. Though some of the materials we present are usually compatible with what we teach at the master's level, we've tailored these lessons for pastoral counseling in the church setting, not psychotherapy or clinical counseling. Something that may be very helpful to some of you taking these courses is the possibility of receiving undergraduate or graduate credit for the completion of certain courses. We've enjoyed a good reputation with a number of Christian institutions of higher education, some which actually provided an agreement for credit with our previous distance learning courses. We will be pursuing these same types of agreements in the future for the Center for Pastoral Counseling. We're confident that these courses will eventually qualify for this consideration. However, some institutions, they don't even require an agreement and may give you life credit for your work with the center. This would, of course, be an individual agreement that you'd have to arrange with that institution. I do want to make it clear, however, that this course, unlike our master's degree cohort through Ashland Seminary, is not designed to provide a degree, but rather specialized training in pastoral counseling. If you're interested in entering our master's degree program, please contact our educational department at Emerge either by phone, 1-800-621-5207, or email us at education@emerge.org. You can go to our website for more information. Let me give you a brief introduction to your teachers in this core module. First of all, I'm delighted to be a part of the teaching team in this module. Though I'm president and CEO of Emerge Ministries, my experience comes from the field of pastoral ministry and ministry training. After serving for several years in evangelistic work and a youth pastor, I then became a senior pastor of a church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My wife, Kathy, and I were there for 25 wonderful years in a growing, dynamic church where we launched over 300 into vocational ministry. We know what it is to pastor a small church and a megachurch and all the sizes in between, because our church grew through all of those stages. And a constant need throughout those pastoral years was the need for counseling training. My theological studies and even observing my mentors provided very little help and no training for the more than 12,000 counseling hours that I gave to parishioners through those years of pastoral ministry. I'd have given anything to have this level of training such as we are providing here at the center. After our ministry as senior pastorate, we launched a new ministry called Paraclete, which was designed to come alongside pastors and missionaries. Well, during our first year, we traveled in 13 countries and 15 states, mentoring, counseling pastors and missionaries. And again, the need was made very evident for practical training in pastoral counseling. Paraclete is still functioning today. I'm still the president of that organization. Kathy and I accepted the presidency of Central Bible College in Springfield, Missouri, where we then invested our lives for 4 years preparing young men and women for vocational ministry. As a former pastor, I emphasized the need for counseling education, and I supported strongly the counseling department. But I could see that academic requirements provided very little opportunity for concentrated counseling training unless that was someone's official major. Now, I share that history prior to my becoming the president of Emerge because the need for counseling education became a stark reality to me during those years, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to fulfill this vision. Dr. Don Litchie is a clinical counselor, psychologist, with wonderful experience at Emerge Ministry. He is truly an outstanding clinician. He's in great demand. He's sought after as a speaker, as a teacher, as a writer in the U.S. and abroad. Dr. Litchie has traveled extensively teaching on a wide variety of subjects ranging from parenting to marriage and family issues to specialized help for ministers. Dr. Richard Serban is also a clinical psychologist with Emerge. Dr. Serban is an outstanding clinician with a great amount of experience in testing, research, writing, as well as counseling. In addition to his ongoing clinical work at Emerge, he serves as a faculty member of our master's degree program and a staff pastor in a local church. Let me give you an overview of the actual lessons that we're going to be studying in this core module and who will be teaching them. 12 lessons, including this introduction. First of all, the introduction to CPC and pastoral counseling. That's me. Then the biblical worldview. Dr. Litchie will be teaching this lesson, and he'll focus on the integration of psychology and theology and give you a psychological basis for sound biblical principles. And then I'll teach on the scriptural qualifications of counselors. I'll follow that teaching with a lesson about appropriate moral and professional boundaries, and the sequel will tie very closely together with it, and that's the lesson on self-care. Dr. Litchie will teach you the next 2 lessons, Basic Counseling Skills Part 1 and 2. That's where the rubber meets the road. These are practical teachings coming from someone with many thousands of hours as a counselor. After Basic Counseling Skills Part 2, in Lesson 8, I'll talk to you about the use of Scripture in the context of your counseling. How do you draw from the wisdom of the Word of God without becoming preachy? What scriptural concepts can be applied to various interventions? And then Dr. Richard Serban will teach you the next 2 lessons. The first on self-concept, how it is shaped, how it is formed, how does one's self-concept reflect on their worldview, their view of others? How can you help your counselees see themselves through the eyes of God? And that will lead into the teaching about God concept. How and when is that formed in a person's psyche? How does that impact their view of themselves and the world around them? Next, in Lesson 11, I will have a frank discussion with you about classic as well as subtle counselor pitfalls and how we navigate around them. Many of the ministers we've counseled who have had a moral failure actually fell into their initial problems during their counseling sessions. We'll talk about transference, countertransference. We'll discuss boundaries and those boundaries that will help you and the counselee and keep you safe. We'll talk about ways to avoid getting caught in exhaustion cycles and about when it's appropriate to refer. And then finally, Dr. Litchie will teach the lesson called Transformational Counseling. And I think you will find this not only informative and inspirational, but it'll bring you hope about how powerful godly counseling can be. Now, these lessons making up the core module, they're just the beginning of the experience that is possible through the Center for Pastoral Counseling. For far less than you would pay for a college course or even many times seminars, you're going to receive the basics in counseling, plus you'll have the opportunity to advance to the future modules and the themes as those become available in the Center for Pastoral Counseling. You know, the great thing about this paradigm, it's dynamic. The nature of the modules are dynamic. We can create new modules as the need becomes evident. For example, who 15 years ago would have anticipated the problem that pornography has caused through the internet? Looking to the future and the economy, we're going to want to address some of the unique stresses and problems that finances and unemployment are causing. We can create new modules or reshape old ones as new research becomes available or needs change. Here's some of the future themes that we're working on and will be available. Parenting, marriage counseling, crisis counseling, dealing with addictions, financial integrity, depression, addictions, ministry health, childhood issues, sexual issues, emotional management. Now, before we close this introduction, let me give you a few tips about how to make the very most of your learning experience with the Center for Pastoral Counseling. We want you to glean all you can and work effectively. Number one, if you haven't already done so, complete the registration process, pay the course fee. You may have entered this introductory lesson as a sample experience, and we're happy for that, but you'll have to register and pay the course fee if you want to enroll in the core curriculum. Secondly, endeavor to maximize your technology as much as possible. Obviously, downloading lessons will require that you have a reasonably fast computer, either Windows-based or Mac-based. The requirement is defined at the outset, but generally speaking, you need to have at least Windows 98 or later, 256K of RAM, and approximately 2 megabytes of storage for each lesson if you're going to store lessons on your hard drive. Of course, you'll need high-speed internet access. I don't recommend dial-up simply because it would just be too lengthy a process. And finally, we'll need to be able to communicate with you by email. From time to time, we may send you online surveys to improve our delivery system or to communicate with you about online events such as the webinars that will be related to specific lessons. With each lesson, we'll provide an opportunity for you to download materials. You'll be able to download, of course, the PowerPoint, and then there will be other materials that you'll also be able to download. I suggest for some of you, if your screen is large enough, you could even take your notes on a Word version. If your screen is large enough, your desktop is large enough, and then you can have the presentation running and take your notes all at the same time. I'll leave that to you. To make the most of these teachings, we encourage you to take notes and file them for future reference. In your experience as a counselor, you're going to look back one day and say, what was it that they said about this particular problem? How do I handle this particular issue? Something that is critical to your advancement in the next lesson or to move to other modules is that you need to be sure to take the test at the end of each lesson. Since you're doing independent study, you're allowed to look back on your notes during the counseling course, and you'll be given plenty of time to take the test. However, you have to pass the test before you move to the next lesson within the module. It's not to be prohibitive, but rather to make sure you've gained the knowledge you need as your training is expanded to other levels. If you don't pass the test the first time, Don't worry. You have an opportunity to take it again, focus on the areas that you may have missed, and you can actually take the test up to 3 times just to improve your learning skills and improve your scores. We may provide from time to time a virtual classroom or webinar where you can interact with a teacher who provides the lessons and the students who are taking them. We encourage you to endeavor to set aside those times when they're announced, whenever possible, so that you can increase the value of your learning experience. You'll need to make notes of those times when you receive email notices, since we're limited on how many of these events we're able to provide. We're going to provide a bibliography of recommended reading to enhance your online lecture experiences. Unless you're taking the course for college credit, you're not going to be required to read and report on those materials, but you will find that reading those books or those articles or going to certain websites and downloading information, that'll enrich your experience and knowledge base. With most lessons, there will be several questions for reflection. These are not graded, but to make the most of your experience, we suggest that you contemplate each of these questions, do the assignments, or solidify the principles and think them through, integrate them into your life or to your ministry. It'll help you. Well, I hope this has been a helpful introduction to the Center for Pastoral Counseling. We've enjoyed sharing this with you, this overview of the core module, the concepts that shape the Center for Pastoral Counseling. And since we're always in the development stage, always learning, we'd welcome your feedback and your ideas as to how we can make this experience better. You'll have an opportunity to provide us with an evaluation after each lesson or after each module is completed to let us know what was the least helpful, what was the most helpful. We're going to provide a little sample test for you after this introduction, just to give you some practice as to how this will work at the conclusion of each of the lessons. So be sure to take the sample test at the end of this introduction. You'll find this very easy. It's more of a practical practice quiz than a measure of knowledge. But you still need to pass it to go to the next lesson. I think you'll have some fun doing this, and at the same time, you'll learn about the testing in the future lessons. May God bless you as you enhance your ability to bear the burdens of others, set people free from their bondages, and in doing so, fulfill the law of Christ.